Hey guys, it's Chris. From tunnels underneath Portland to a fort cursed by a wizard. Join me as I show you 8 haunted places from around the world. Number 8. Winchester Mystery House. In case you didn't know, William Wirt Winchester made the Winchester rifle, a gun so powerful and accurate that it was said to have helped tame the Wild West. What's more, the gun is still revered to this day, as is the name of Winchester. The success of the gun helped him become a magnate, and he was very wealthy. However, while he was happy with the success, his wife Sarah wasn't as glad. For in her mind, according to a medium she met, she was going to be forever haunted by the people that her husband's guns had killed, which for the record would have been a rather significant amount due to its popularity. To protect herself, she made a very large mansion, one that had many different facets and hidden rooms that she could access in order to get away from the spirits and ghosts that were haunting her. This was not a small place, and the Winchester Mystery House, as it's called now, has over 200 rooms, 10,000 windows, and had 2,000 doors of various sizes and intents, including ones that would allow the late Mrs. Winchester to spy on people that she needed to. Though still considered by many to be haunted, you can tour the Winchester house and you can see for yourself the lengths that Sarah went to get away from the spirits and ghosts. Number 7. The LaLaurie Mansion. New Orleans, Louisiana is famous for not only believing in ghosts, but respecting them in many aspects. To that end, the city is said to be full of haunted places. One of them is the LaLaurie Mansion. According to history, Madame Marie Delphine LaLaurie was a socialite who lived in New Orleans in the French Quarter in the early part of the 19th century, and one of her claims to fame was throwing lavish parties, all of which were held in her Creole mansion. What many didn't know, though, was just 2 floors above where the parties were being thrown, Madame LaLaurie had slaves in the attic that were suffering through her torture. Once what Madame LaLaurie did was made public, she was run out of town. The mansion itself was eventually privately bought, and not long after the truth of it was revealed, it was said by many that the screams of the people who died in the house could still be heard. The mansion is no longer able to be toured from the inside, but is talked about during other tours in New Orleans. Just as interesting, the horror series American Horror Story Coven had Madame LaLaurie brought back to life. Number 6. MARLBORO Psychiatric Hospital. MARLBORO Psychiatric Hospital is a place with a rather dark history, and because of that, the place is said to be haunted in a very dark way. The hospital ran for 67 years, and throughout that time, there were numerous mysterious reports about what really happened at the hospital in regards to its patients, all of which led to the rumors of the place being cursed or haunted. For example, the hospital had numerous cases of patients disappearing from it, with no explanation as to where they went. As if that wasn't enough, the hospital also had multiple cases of patients dying under odd circumstances, including choking to death or freezing to death. And while you might be able to explain choking depending on the patient, someone freezing to death isn't something you'd expect to hear at a psychiatric hospital. The deaths of patients built up so much that a graveyard had to be commissioned to be made on site so the patients could be buried there. Eventually, the deaths themselves prompted an official investigation, yet the place remained open. That changed, though, when the hospital closed in 1988. This was when the ghost stories started to emerge, for there were too many disappearances and sightings to make this a simple thing. Many ghost hunters and believers toured the place and searched for paranormal activity. Eventually, the state of New Jersey tore down the place in 2015, bringing a potential end to a haunted place. And now for number 5. But first, if you're new to World List, be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our latest videos. Number 5. The Shanghai Tunnels. Portland, Oregon may not seem like a place that would have a dark history in the state it's in now, but in the early 19th century, there was a massive human trafficking ring going on. They would kidnap people from saloons and other places, and it was known as Shanghaiing at the time, and then they dumped them into a very elaborate set of tunnels that were underneath Portland. Once underground, the men would be drugged and then sold off at the waterfront, often to ships who wanted laborers they didn't have to pay for to get stuff done. It would sometimes take years for these people to get back to their homes and their families and friends. While many were sold off, there were also a group of these kidnapped people who didn't make it the whole way. And because of that, the tunnels themselves are said to be haunted by the spirits spirits of those who were taken away and then died as a result. And despite its dark history, there are multiple tours in Portland that offer you a chance to go through the tunnels yourself, including the Portland Walking Tours and the Cascade Geographic Society. Number 4. Bhangarh Fort. In India, there's a fort that stands on the border of the Sariska Reserve in the Ura Valley range of hills in the Alwar district of Rajasthan, one of the states of the country. There are many legends about this fort, but the most popular one of all is that of a wizard named N.K. Sinha. This wizard was one who practiced the arts of black magic, and one day he fell in love with a princess named Ratnavati. Despite her having many suitors, the wizard went after her, and at one point actually offered her a love potion. But when she refused, she took the potion and threw it onto a boulder, and that somehow got it loosened, and then it killed the wizard. However, before his death, he put a curse on the fort where the princess and her family lived. The curse was that it would be destroyed, and anyone who would try to live in the place would fail to afterwards. As if waiting for a cue, a group known as the Mughals came from the north and then laid siege to Bhangarh Fort, killing all who were inside, including the princess. The place is now abandoned, and it's said that the spirits of the princess and the wizard roam around in there. Though it's also said that one day the princess will be reincarnated, and when she returns to the fort, the curse will be lifted. Number 3. Paris Catacombs. Once upon a time in Paris, France, specifically in the 18th century, the city was going through a very rough period in terms of its people. At the time, Paris had become so occupied with people that when they died, they were running out of places to put them. Not something you think about when constructing a grand city most of the time. Because of this unique problem, the cemeteries were overflowing. It was so bad that in 1780, a wall was burst because of a heavy rainstorm, and bodies were released from their holds, causing a panic in the city. Eventually, the people came up with the idea to put the bodies and remains into the tunnels underneath the city. There were already loads of tunnels there, and the room was adequate to fit them all in there, while also leaving room for more potential people in the years to come. And over the course of 12 years, 5 cemeteries worth of bodies and bones were put into the catacombs. It's believed that between 6 and 7 million bodies are within the catacombs, creating all sorts of legends as to the very nature of the catacombs and what really resides in there. Paris would later open the catacombs to public viewing, allowing them to see a small part of what was there. And there lies the rub. For though a part of it's shown, not all of it is revealed to the public. Because of this, many feel that the catacombs are haunted in their own way. According to some, the bodies of those in there weren't asked to be there, but forced there because of the situation of the city. Thus, their spirits are restless and long to be in the places where their friends or families buried them. Number 2. R.M.S. Queen Mary. There are many tales of ghost ships out in the world, but one former luxury liner turned troop ship, the R.M.S. Queen Mary, has a rather unique tale of why it's haunted. The ship was originally made as an ocean liner to go across the Atlantic Ocean, and it did so for many years. During its early days, it was a luxury liner that carried all manner of celebrity, and even gave passage to future President Dwight D. Eisenhower. But when World War II broke up, the liner became a troop ship and was dubbed the Grey Ghost, an ironic foreshadowing of what was to come, because during its time as a troop ship, a couple of members of the crew died, including a person being crushed to death because of an engine room door, as well as a soldier who was murdered in his own cabin. To that end, the spirits of these members and more are said to roam the ship. Despite the history of this ship, including being the place where Winston Churchill signed the D-Day Declaration, the Queen Mary is now a hotel in California, one that embraces its haunted nature via tours and special Halloween events, such as the Dark Harbor. Number 1. Ancient Ram Inn. The Ancient Ram Inn is considered one of the most haunted places in the world. From basically the moment it was built in 1145, there have been odd occurrences there, and to this day, many refuse to go there at all because of the weird occurrences that have happened. Many think the inn was built on a pagan burial ground where sacrifices occurred, one that is 5,000 years old. Others think that because the inn was built on 2 ley lines, that it invoked the wrath of some deity or spirit. And no matter what the truth is, Many people will attest to being attacked by spirits or ghosts in their rooms at this inn. Many have even been reported to be fleeing the bed and breakfast screaming at the top of their lungs because they saw something in their rooms. And those reports continue to this day. The current owner of the ancient Ram Inn is named Joseph Humphreys, who's owned it since 1968. He claims that on his first night he was dragged out of his bed by a ghost. What's more, since his time owning it, he's found skeletons buried in places within the inn, ritual daggers, proof of ritual sacrifice, and more. Despite all of this, Humphreys, now in his 80s, dedicated his life to preserving the ancient Ram Inn. Well, thanks for watching. What did you think of these haunted places? Which of them would you even dare to go visit? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List, and I'll see you next time.